Frady Cat here. In this video, we go back in time to remember facts in history from the mostly forgotten cartoon series, Gilligan's Planet, and dare to imagine what might the show have looked like as a live-action series back then, and what great potential it might have now as a movie or TV reboot. So hang on, we're about to travel across time and space to Saturday morning's past, and an unknown future that we can only imagine. Of course, it all started with a storm that sent a group of soon-to-be castaways to a lost deserted island for 3 seasons of Gilligan's Island back in 1964 to 67. Gilligan and his friends would go on to be TV legends thanks to reruns and would have 2 animated series come from the show. In case you forgot or never heard of it because you weren't around back then, Gilligan's Planet was an actual Saturday morning cartoon series running from 1982 to 1983 that presented Gilligan's Island fans with what I think of as an alternate history of the show.
There's no sense in upsetting the others over anything so preposterous.
The last we'd seen of the castaways on television at this time was a TV movie called The Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island back in 1981. This was the last TV movie after the second rescue, and by this time around the Howells had turned their island into a resort paradise where Gilligan now worked. So Gilligan's Planet debuted a year later. It must have been set in the same timeline as the first cartoon series that aired in 1974. Both were produced by Filmation. So how did the castaways end up on another planet? They completely ignored the TV movies, and the professor was still trying to get the castaways off the island.
Skipper, everybody, what's going on?
According to the intro of Gilligan's Planet, the professor managed to build a rocket ship, which has got to be easier than building a boat.
You and your fantastic stories.
But hey, it was Saturday morning and all that mattered was something funny was going on. It didn't have to make sense, it just had to be good.
That wasn't so bad, was it?
It was horrible.
If you're like me and you wonder what a live-action version might have looked like, Gilligan actor Bob Denver actually did a Saturday morning series called Far Out Space Nuts in 1975, where he basically was Gilligan with Chuck McCann playing the skipper role. It was Gilligan in space without the other castaways. I guess that made it a little cheaper.
We've been driving for 30 minutes and this hexagon hasn't said a thing.
I bet you didn't know that Far Out Space Nuts had in 1975 predicted that GPS and that computer lady that always gets us lost while we're driving.
This is the hexagon speaking. I'll make a 45-degree turn to the right. I'll make a 45-degree turn to the right. I'll make a 45-degree turn to the right. Continue straight ahead. Watch out for the trees.
Go straight ahead. Go straight ahead. Go straight ahead. Make a U-turn and take a right. Go straight ahead. Make a U-turn and take a left. Make a U-turn. Go straight. Make a U-turn. I'll pay for the ticket. Trust me.
Sorry, I got distracted with real-life problems that affect me on a daily basis. Anyway, Far Out Space Nuts didn't have a very large budget. Probably a lot less than Gilligan's Island, as evidenced by some of the special effects that were actually funny because they were cheap. They didn't have the castaways, but they did have a couple of guest appearances by Hal Smith.
No one outwits Flam?
Who we all know as Otis the Town Drunk from the Andy Griffith Show. He was big on Saturday mornings, doing a lot of voice work for a lot of cartoons. Most of the aliens and monsters from Far Out Space Nuts looked like escapees from Sesame Street or Captain Kangaroo, but they were pretty creative. If you'd like me to do a more detailed look at Far Out Space Nuts in the future, let me know in the comments. I think a movie adaptation of Gilligan's Planet could be awesome, but I'd change a couple of things. Like I would say some aliens were involved instead of asking the audience to believe the professor made a rocket ship out of palm trees and bananas. I think a saucer or a rocket ship should crash land leaving enough for the professor to make something of. On the regular series of Gilligan's Island, they always had the issue where the girls and the Howells somehow had an endless supply of clothing. So maybe in a new version, the gang finds spacesuits on the ship that can change to any type of clothing based on a person's thoughts or need. That way Ginger and Mary Ann would always have the latest space fashions or whatever might come up. So you know, for the movie Gilligan's Planet, Ginger could be blonde as well as a redhead. You see, in the cartoon series, Filmation didn't want to take a chance on getting sued, so they made Ginger a platinum blonde to avoid comparisons to Tina Louise, who didn't want anything to do with Gilligan's Island at this time. By the way, Dawn Wells, who had missed out on the first Gilligan's Island cartoon, did the voices of both Ginger and Marianne on the Gilligan's Planet series. One of the best Gilligan's Planet episodes was Super Gilligan, where Gilligan is given powers by a wise old guy, kind of like what happens to Billy Batson in Shazam. I've always thought that Gilligan may have superpowers anyway. I mean, have you ever noticed how fast he can run when scared? I've always thought that no normal human being could ever run that fast. And of course, there was that one episode of Gilligan's Island where Gilligan ate some radiated vegetables and gained super strength. On the cartoon, Gilligan gets an alien reptile for a pet sidekick named Bumper, which you could imagine could be a pretty cool character for a big screen movie. Gilligan's Planet had an interesting visual. The land was purple, the sky green, and the plant life was all blue. And as a movie or a TV series, we could have Gilligan run into an alien lady with a pet, whatever that is.
You have such a wild imagination.
You know, the cartoon was pretty much an animated amalgam of Gilligan's Island and Lost in Space.
Stop. Do not proceed. Danger.
That's what a lot of their aliens sort of reminded me of.
No one would take a bet on such skullduggery, Dr. Smith. Silence!
So that's Arnold. Looks more like an overgrown tin can.
Which reminds me, I bet you didn't know that Bob Denver appeared with Robby the Robot on an episode of The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. And Robby the Robot appeared on a couple of episodes of Lost in Space.
That galactic goon should be barred from the yacht club.
Now, I bet you probably did know that Mr. Howell actor Jim Backus was no stranger to doing voice work for cartoons. He was the voice of Mr. Magoo for several years.
Don't turn that off! That's the best part!
Including the series in 1977, What's New, Mr. Magoo, and The Famous Adventures of Mr. Magoo in 1964, and the series Mr. Magoo in 1960, plus various shorts and Magoo movies and specials. So what do you think? I know the prevailing thought these days is that nothing can be rebooted or redone without ruining it. But just for the sake of argument, what if somebody could make a funny movie of Gilligan's Planet with awesome modern special effects and combined with old-fashioned comedy? Would you be happy to at least watch it on television? I would be the first one to admit, of course, that they've ruined some classic shows with revamps. Quantum Leap comes to mind, but I'm always optimistic. I mean, I love watching television, and I can think of one reboot that I really have enjoyed so far, and I admit I'm only up to season 1, but the new Magnum PI has been really awesome. So there's hope. At any rate, it's fun to imagine, and I hope you had fun revisiting Gilligan's Planet from way back in the early 80s. Let me know what you thought of this video. Post ideas for future videos. If you like this video, check out my Thundar the Barbarian video where I look at some cool facts and my idea of what a Thundar the Barbarian movie might look like. If you're more in the mood for a laugh, check out my video on how to know if you are living in an AI simulation. It could be very informative. This channel is all about cartoons, past, present, and future, and hopefully along the way you have a laugh or two, or at least a smile. Please subscribe, hit the like, and let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. Thanks, and have a great day.